Now let's proceed on our next topic, effective teaching in the physical education setting. The goal of education is to give quality learning for students, and to make this happen, teachers should be effective in teaching and facilitating learning. As a physical education teacher, we have a significant impact on students' perception of physical education. We are the ones who will introduce and facilitate their learning and experience about the subject. That is why we should make sure that PE program or the physical education program are taught effectively. How can we teach physical education effectively? I will discuss 6 characteristics that a teacher should have in order to teach PE effectively. But take note that these characteristics are not solely for physical education because they can also be implemented in other subjects. So to begin, here is the first characteristic. Knowledgeable practitioner, having the ability to understand and teach the content of a subject to your pupils. This characteristic talks about your ability to understand the content of the subject and to teach these contents to your students. Now that we are taking this unit teaching PE and health in primary grades, this is the perfect time for us to be equipped with the knowledge and skills in teaching physical education. So that once we're already teachers and we are tasked to teach physical education, we can facilitate it effectively. A knowledgeable teacher or practitioner can create meaningful explanation and connect the information to something familiar for students. For example, in teaching sports like basketball, we should explain basketball through demonstration and let the students experience playing it. Why? Because it is where students will apply the knowledge they learned from you. Furthermore, you should assess the background of your student about the topic that you will discuss so that you can create opportunities for your students to relate on it. Remember, teaching should be contextualized. Another thing that a knowledgeable practitioner or knowledgeable teacher can do is that he or she can translate materials to students in a seemingly effortless and systematic manner. We can make techniques on how our students will learn the contents. Teachers should be a continuous learner. Once we're already teacher, it doesn't mean learning will stop there. We can't avoid to encounter contents that are not familiar to us. That is why we still need to make research and study those unfamiliar contents. It also can't be avoided that there are materials that doesn't meet the curriculum demands of your school or system. We need to make adjustment or change on those materials. And in order to do that, we have to study. We need to learn on how we will adjust or change these materials to make it perfect for the demands of our school. It is indeed that teachers have different strengths and weaknesses. So some contents are easy for others, but for others are not. My point here is that we can also learn from our co-teachers, ask for their help, and create peer collaboration to have new ideas and skills to teach contents of physical education. Again, for us to be a knowledgeable practitioner, we should always be a continuous learner. Physical education program is always changing. Maybe you are knowledgeable about it today, but not tomorrow. So we must keep updated. Let's proceed on our next characteristic. Good communicator. Teachers can clearly verbalize to students what is expected and how students are to go about meeting this expectation. It can be said that the foundation for strong relationship is the way individuals relate and communicate with each other. Teacher and student relationship is included here. When there is bad or no communication with our student, we may build misunderstanding, uncertainty, and frustration. In order to eliminate this from happening, we should be a good communicator. We should clearly state what we are expecting to them and how they will meet those expectations. It is proven and tested that when students understand what is expected to them and understand how to meet it, the uncertainties, frustration, and misunderstanding can be prevented. For example, our topic to be discussed is about exercises. We should tell our students that we expect them to make exercises part of their daily lives. Also, we should guide them on how they can make it happen. In this way, students will have clear vision on what we want them to learn. We need to state what we expect to our students and also guide them on how to achieve it. But how can we verbalize it clearly? How can we say that we are good communicator? There are two particular important aspects of presenting tasks to students that teaches good and clear communication. They are demonstration and learning cues. These two instruction functions help children focus on critical elements or strategies for the required task. First one is demonstration. Usually, explaining only through verbal is not enough for our students to understand an instruction, especially those in primary grades. So, we need to demonstrate. We need to show them on how to complete the task. Second is learning cues. Learning cues are good support to make instruction clear for our students. It makes clear for them what we really expect. Learning cues can be verbal or non-verbal. Verbal cues are those questions that tells our student what to do. For example, as instructor, you will ask your students, does anyone know why this happened? In this example, you are obviously looking for them to respond to your question with an answer. That is verbal cues. Next is non-verbal cues. Example of these are your hand gestures, facial expressions, body movements, and so on that you can use to support your verbal instructions. Class, I want you to also remember that communication with our student should be a two-way street. We must be able to give clear and quality instruction. And students must feel secure that it is okay for them to ask or speak if they don't understand something. That makes us a good communicator. Next, for our third characteristic, an effective teacher is a creator of positive learning environment. Teacher can help foster positive atmosphere for learning to manage and organize the learning environment. It is safe to assume that when the learning environment is filled with uncertainties and conflicts, there is only little learning takes place. Imagine an unorganized environment for our students. How come quality learning will come if your students are confused on how they should make things right? So, as an effective teacher, we should manage an organized learning environment. We should be good managers. Though it doesn't mean being a good manager means you are an effective teacher because there are still a lot of characteristics to consider. But to be effective teacher, we should be a good manager. How to be a good manager? A good manager establish notes and routines for students that will guide classroom procedure throughout the year. These can be called class rules. Once we set up rules, make sure it is clear to our students. They were able to understand it. To make our students obey our rules. Don't forget to give punishments for those who violate and give incentives for those who follow. These are called reinforcements. Example of punishment could be asking them to make chores or do exercise. On the other hand, example of reinforcement could be additional grades. Now, I'll give two examples of rules that we can implement. First one is the proper ways on how to use equipments in PE class. Next is the rules in using gymnasiums. It is most ideal to manage the environment as early as the first day of school. On that way, students will have enough time to practice obeying the rules, and at the same time, we can manage our learning environment at early days. That's it for my part. The other three characteristics of effective teaching will be discussed by Ma'am Riza Dison.